Hey guys, so a few days ago on Instagram I did the Ask Me Anything question, and that's what this video is going to be, is just answering a bunch of questions that you guys asked me on Instagram. So I'm going to start off with the most asked question from everyone, and that is, what is my favorite cruelty-free and vegan hair dye? So it took me a long time to find a hair dye that I like. Previously, I was using Pravana and Kevin Murphy. They're a cruelty-free brand, but I couldn't really find out much information about whether their black hair dye was in fact vegan. So my favorite vegan cruelty-free black hair dye that I know of is Aveda. Someone also asked in the questions whether I do my hair myself, and I definitely don't. So that's why I only really stick to those professional brands, because I do have a hairdresser friend do it for me. Chris808 says, favorite vegan cheese. I need some recommendations. I feel like I post a lot of cheese on Instagram, even though before I went vegan I didn't really eat that much cheese at all. I eat way more of it now as a vegan, which is so weird. But I really like Follow Your Heart and Violife and Miyoko's for some fancy cheese. But if you are interested in any vegan recommendations, there is a little highlight button on my Instagram, and I always pop those kind of recommendations in that little highlight tab. Lotus DMJ, hello, I love you. Said, where did you and your husband get the names for your fur babies? I love Herman. Herman's always barking in my videos. Lily Bean is such a good girl. The names are Herman and Lily from the Munsters. Katie May asked, are you into perfume? If so, what are your favorites? I definitely love perfume. I don't wear it every day, but I do wear it for special occasions. But my favorites are just different indie brands that I find when I'm shopping around. I have a few that I picked up when I've been traveling. There's this one here, the Maison Louis Marie. I really like that one. And this one that I got at a hat store in LA, Feel Fragrances. That one's really nice too. I also love Le Labo, but it's so expensive. I also have a few little vials of an indie perfume brand called Alana Umbra as well. So I really like those. I usually go for like more of an earthy type of scent. So Didi Ophelia asked, what clothing brands do you recommend for those of us on a lower income budget? Followed me on this channel for a little bit, you'll probably notice that I'm trying to veer more into the indie slow fashion, less of a fast fashion wardrobe. I'm not 100% perfect with it yet, but I do definitely try to buy from indie brands just like Noctex, Helvac, Ovate, Nui, all of those brands, but they are quite expensive because most of the clothes are handmade, made to order, and I know that not everyone can afford that. When I'm buying these pieces, they're more like pieces that I know I'll have for a really long time, like investment pieces. But if I do want something that's a little more trend-based, I usually try to find it on Depop or Poshmark, which are both reselling apps for your phone. I also go on The RealReal a lot, which is resale designer stuff. So yeah, lately I've been trying to not buy any fast fashion. I haven't shopped at Forever 21 or H&M or Zara for a while now. Just trying to be a little more conscious of those choices, but I would definitely recommend trying to thrift, finding your stuff on Depop. I find a ton of stuff on Depop actually. I know there are some brands that are definitely a lot more affordable and they have a pretty good ethics rating. You can always Google a brand's ethics rating and it will come up whether they are fair trade, what their environmental scale is as well. So Cass Peterson and Burger Smash, top 5 favorite bands, and what are some of the favorite bands to listen to when doing makeup. So I was just talking to my husband about this, and it's really hard for me to list a top 5 favorite bands. I feel like I'd have to do a top 5 favorite bands of different genres, but the first 2 that come to mind that without falter will always be on the list is AFI and Nick Cave. And then I kind of loosely constructed the last 3, but they could change. Definitely The Cure, maybe Brand New, just because I've loved them when I was younger and I still like them now. and then I'm gonna add Sisters of Mercy in there as well. As to what I listen to when I'm doing my makeup, I usually listen to one of those pre-made playlists on Spotify. So usually a daily mix, or the one that I was listening to just before when I was doing my makeup was Your Top Songs 2018, and it's a very eclectic mix. Explosions in the Sky, Choir Boy, Clan of Zymox, Sigur Rós, Metallica, The Jesus and Mary Chain, Low City Rain, Daphne Loves Derby. Do any old school emo kids remember them? So I enjoy a lot of like older 80s music, and then I love stuff that makes me feel nostalgic from, you know, the pop punk 2003 era, like the Ataris and Taking Back Sunday and Brand New. Eileen likes you. Hey Eileen, my buddy. She said, what is one thing that you would like to learn to do this year, i.e. roller skate? I'm definitely not going to learn to roller skate. I feel so nervous to do anything like roller skating or snowboarding or skiing, because if I fell over and broke my wrist, I would be screwed for my job. But I definitely do want to learn some more microblading or brow techniques this year. So I plan on in the middle of the year taking another course to further my education with that as well. Lydia asked, do you prefer Michigan weather or Aussie weather? I think that's pretty obvious. Definitely Aussie weather. It's really freaking cold outside right now. I do prefer how Michigan has seasons, like we don't have fall in Australia. I like layering and dressing up and dressing for different seasons, and I think that living in Michigan you really appreciate when it's nice out. But yeah, Aussie weather is just, it's pretty good, you can't beat it. Savannah's says, why Michigan? My husband's actually born and raised here in Michigan, so he lived in my hometown in Australia for about a year, and then we decided to move to Michigan, and then we ended up staying here. We have it pretty good here. There's a really cheap cost of living, so I'm able to afford to have my own house and then travel a lot as well. That's something I don't think that I would be able to afford if I did still live in Australia. So cost of living was one big part of it, and I also just met a lot of really great friends here that made me want to stick around. I have great friends in Australia as well, but there was just some cool people here. Tony's Earl, makeup artist, she had a few questions. She said, what's your most recent tattoo and favorite tattoo? So my most recent tattoo was done by Matt Aldridge, and I actually work with him where I do eyebrows microblading out of. He did some little like filler flowers on my legs just in between tattoos, just to fill up some gaps. And then my favorite tattoo is Lucy from Dracula, and that was done by Heather Bailey. Tony also asked, if you couldn't do a job in beauty, what would you be doing? I don't know, to be honest, because I honestly couldn't imagine a job not in beauty. I think I'll always be doing something to do with that. I just need a job where I'm able to be creative. Right now I do makeup, I shape eyebrows, and I also microblade eyebrows. So I guess if I wasn't doing something like that, it'd probably be something in the fashion industry, or maybe working with animals as well. Coffee 000 and Cupcake Sprinkles has asked, do you and Maddie want kids? And pretty much the short answer to that is no. I always say that if I had an extra 10 years in my 30s, then I might consider having them. But for now, I'm 33 and I just can't imagine ever wanting them in the next decade. I've never really been a kid type of person, and I just really like my life the way it is right now. Just me, Maddie, and our fur babies, that's enough for me. Riley Grubb asked, could you describe your typical trip to the grocery store? I'm quite new to veganism. For starters, thank you for being vegan, Riley. And a typical trip to the grocery store, I usually shop in small little batches. So I just went to the grocery store, and tonight we're making crispy tofu. I'm going to make a little chipotle sauce with it. So I got some ingredients for that. I just looked up the first recipe that I found online when I googled vegan chipotle sauce. And then I got some cauliflower rice mix to cook with it and some pinto beans. But basically it's always a staple. It's like sweet potato, kale, tempeh or tofu. And then I actually did pick up some Beyond brats because they're so hard to come by, so I'm going to chuck them in the freezer and probably make some more sausage rolls out of them because they were so good. Cupcakes and Sprinkles also asked, how do you stay strong as a couple? And I was actually just chatting to Maddie about it, asking him why he thinks that our relationship works so well. We kind of came to the conclusion that we communicate really well. We both can accept criticism about the other without taking it too personally. I think that's communication is always the most important thing. I think we're both really good at realizing that when we're wrong and admitting it and saying sorry. He's definitely better at that than I am, but that's something that I've learned as well. You know, there's times where you just are a crazy psycho bitch for no reason, then you're like, oh, hang on, I'm being a psycho. You apologize and then it's cool. Soulfire Girl asked if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I would have to say if it wasn't here, it would probably be between two places in Australia. Byron Bay or Melbourne would be super cool. The Vegan Spy asked favorite junk food item, and that is definitely donuts. I love donuts so much. They've always been my biggest weakness. So if I ever find vegan donuts, I am 100% going to eat them. I swear I eat way more junk food as a vegan because I feel like I need to try every single thing that I find. Just the other day I had a KFC pizza. When I wasn't vegan and I was eating meat, there's no way I would ever go and order a KFC pizza. I just wouldn't. But because there was a vegan version, of course I'm gonna try it, and it was actually really delicious. This is a good question from Lucid. Do you ever feel like brands ignore you because you present yourself as alternative? I think definitely yes. When you present yourself in more of a niche subgenre, then you're going to get way less opportunities than girls that kind of fit the mold to, say, the Kardashians or how everyone wants to look these days. In hindsight, looking back at it, when I was jealous about all of those opportunities that some other influencers were getting because they fit that mold, I also think that some of the opportunities that I have gotten from other alternative brands, I'm glad that I aligned myself with those brands rather than getting to go to Bora Bora with Tarte or something. So yeah, definitely those bigger brands haven't really been a part of my career as an influencer, but I have gotten more opportunities from smaller brands that are a little more alternative and indie. I appreciate working with them way more than getting to work with huge brands. Nox Lux says favorite places to shop faux leather and faux fur. There's tons of different places that I use for faux leather and faux fur. Fur, definitely Look Hunter. All of my favorite stuff is from them. They're like a little indie brand on Etsy. For leather stuff, I love Sans Beast, which is a really cool Australian brand, and Matin Nat is great as well. Bahava for shoes. There's definitely tons of different brands that I'm finding all the time, and I do often pop those in my fashion videos and my obsessions videos too. Adventures of Being Me asked, is your husband also vegan? If so, who became vegan first? Well, Maddie did technically. He was the first one to call it. I was pescatarian, and then I decided after we watched a documentary, I was like, you know what, today's the day that I completely ditch dairy. And he was like, screw it, I'm going vegan. He called it first, so he wins. Melancholic Succubus asked, tips on becoming a beauty influencer. I never really started this to become a beauty influencer, so I don't know if I'm the right person to ask for that. I've been doing this for 4 years now. I don't think that my growth has been huge as opposed to other beauty influencers. I think that goes back to how we were just talking about, like, the many subgenres of the makeup industry, and you know, I kind of do a little bit more of an alternative makeup style, and then I'm also in the cruelty-free subcategory, and now I only use vegan beauty. So the beauty influencer industry scares the shit out of me. There's so much drama and yuckiness, hate, mean comments always going on that I don't know how some of the really big influencers keep it together, to be honest. So the reason why I even started doing this was I started at a new makeup salon that I still work at now, and I was trying to showcase my makeup techniques to build a clientele, and then it just kind of spiraled into this. And the only reason that I stay is now to raise awareness for animal cruelty, whether it be trying to convince people to only use cruelty-free cosmetics or spreading vegan awareness and any kind of animal awareness. So basically that's the only reason that I stay. And yeah, I think that answer pretty much wraps up a bunch of questions that some of you have asked. I don't and won't ever get into any drama or gossip or tea or anything on this channel. That's not what it's about. It's about makeup and loving on furry friends. Knives Out, great question. When did you finally figure out your style? Did it come over time or did it just click one day? I think it was definitely a progression. I've always worn a lot of black. I started wearing a ton of black when I started working for MAC, and then I've always kind of been into, I hate saying alternative music because I think of all of the terrible music on alternative radio stations, being in that kind of category. So I guess it was a natural progression, and now as I get older, I'm just trying to find a style that still lets me be a little like dark and edgy, but also can suit my age group as well without looking too try-hardish. Another person says, why did you move to Michigan? It sucks, LOL. No, it's awesome. The weather sucks sometimes, but it's awesome. What is your favorite jewelry company and what is your favorite piece of jewelry from that company? I have a ton of favorite jewelry companies actually. I really like obviously Blood Milk, Burial Ground, Souvenir Jewelry, Mercury Hour. I love small indie brands for jewelry, definitely. My favorite piece is definitely my wedding set from Blood Milk. A few people have asked me diet and workout related questions, so I'll just kind of combine them into one. Someone specifically, Nemo, said, do you enjoy working out or do you do it just because it's healthy? Who inspires you to be active? So I only really started working out probably about 5 years ago. I never used to. I would dabble in it, but I'd find it really hard to stay motivated, especially if I was just going to the gym by myself. But then I had some friends and they were really in love with yoga, so I started to do yoga. And then eventually I started to do a kind of CrossFit training gym thing. The thing that inspires me is I feel like I've just always struggled with my weight. I've always kind of been really hard on myself about my figure. Once I found something that I loved doing, it became a lot easier, and once you get into the habit of doing it, it's so much easier. But basically, I don't love working out. I just have a set schedule that I stick to, and I'm held accountable by the other people that I work out with, so that helps a lot. I've just realized that as I get older, it is important to take your health as a priority. My husband has always been super duper fit and healthy, so it definitely inspires me seeing him stay up with his fitness. That definitely helps me stay strong with keeping on going to the gym and yoga. Cruelty-free skincare essentials. It's so hard for me to get a skincare routine going on right now. I'm trying to transition away from a cleanser that I've had for so long that I realize is not vegan. For me, I can break out so easily just from trying one new product. So when I try something, I have to try it for a full month and not introduce a single new thing into my routine, which is so annoying. But I do really love Sunday Riley stuff. And then the rest of my skincare I get from goodcubed.com, just because they have really easy filters. So everything on the site is clean beauty. It's also cruelty-free beauty, but they have a vegan toggle that you can actually select. So everything that it shows you will be vegan, cruelty-free and clean. So I use that a lot, and I just got a new cleanser to try out from there. So we'll see if it works. I also have been trying a few new products from Pixie Beauty. They have some pretty good skincare that everyone seems to love, so I'm adding a few of those into my routine. Once I nail it though, I will definitely be doing a video for you guys. And Dali, one of my OG followers, hey Anne, she said, what is your favorite eyeshadow ever to create your famous crack eye look? Probably the Lime Crime Venus palette. That's the easiest and best, my most grabbed palette for when I'm doing those kinds of looks. One more from Tony and then we'll wrap it up. What made you decide to go fully vegan after being cruelty free for a while? Honestly, it was a lot of influence from all of the girls that I was working with at the time. Tara, Stephanie, and Kelsey were huge influences for me to go vegan. None of them really forced it upon me. It was more of like a living by example thing. Also, my friend Scully in California, just seeing her posts all the time, I knew in my head that eventually it was going to be the direction that I was going to take. I never started off being cruelty free thinking, oh, well, eventually I'll have to go vegan, but it just naturally transitioned that way. It was like, I went cruelty free and I still ate meat, and I care enough about animals to not want them to endure these horrible, painful tests just for beauty's sake. So eventually I was like, well, I'll stop eating meat. And then eventually, like, I stopped wearing leather. I stopped buying real fur brushes. And then one day I watched Okja and was like, all right, I'm definitely ditching dairy. And that's when Maddie said he was gonna go vegan. And I just said, okay, we did it overnight because I knew that eventually I always would be. And I actually am glad that we did it just like that. I know that doesn't work for everyone, and it definitely made it easier having a partner that was on board with it as well. But I feel like if I didn't do it cold turkey, I probably would have just kept finding excuses to delay the inevitable. There are, of course, a ton more questions, but that would end up being an hour video and I don't want to put you guys through that. So if you have stayed this long, thanks for sticking it out with me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'll probably do another one next year or so, if I'm still around then. I don't mean like I'm gonna die or anything, but I just mean be on YouTube still. Yeah, that was kind of morbid. Okay, time to go. See ya. Oh my gosh, I just got one more question in that I have to answer. JS Carter, you're a smarty pants. She says, do you ever think to yourself that some people have the worst fucking eyebrows and you would die to fix them? Jill girl, you know I do. Absolutely. Thank you for making me laugh.